Stan Gibilisco here, proprietor and operator of amateur radio station W1GV, Whiskey 1, Good Vibrations. At your service to describe how you can control the polarization of an antenna known as a quad or a cubical quad. There are two basic configurations. I'm showing only the driven elements here in these images. The maximum radiation and response is right out of the page at you, right out of the page towards you. The driven elements are shown only. That's what DE stands for. The directors are slightly in front of the driven elements and slightly smaller. I'm not showing those for simplicity. And reflectors, if you want to use those, are behind the driven elements. And I'm not showing those either. 2 or 3 element quads are pretty much the same in terms of characteristics, except that the 3 element quad has a little bit more gain, and the characteristic impedance at the feed point, or rather the feed point impedance, is a pure resistance that's a little lower in the case of a 3 element as opposed to a 2 element quad. If you feed a quad antenna that's square like this, at the bottom you get maximum current right here and right here, right near the feed point and right opposite the feed point. The same is true with the diamond shape configuration, maximum current near the feed point and near the counterpoint or antipode to the feed point, resulting in horizontal polarization. In either of these cases, if you decide to feed the loop at point Y instead, you'll get maximum current near the point where the feed line comes to the loop and near the point opposite that where the feed point comes to the loop, resulting in vertical polarization instead of horizontal polarization. And that is a method that you can use to control or choose the polarization you want for your quad antenna. A reader pointed out that a balun should not be needed at the feed point because these antennas are inherently balanced. Well, it is true that a full wavelength loop like this is inherently a balanced antenna at the feed point. However, if you want to feed the antenna with an unbalanced line such as coaxial cable, you are going to want to use a balun for best results. And it turns out that the characteristic impedance of coaxial cable, 50 ohms, pretty closely matches the purely resistive impedance that you get at the feed point of a full wavelength loop with 1 or 2 parasitic elements. That is, a full wavelength loop plus a reflector, or a full wavelength loop plus a director, or even in the case of a 3 element quad, which has both director and reflector. So a 1-to-1 balun between coaxial cable and the antenna will give you the best results, simply because these are inherently balanced antennas, and coaxial cable is inherently an unbalanced transmission line. You don't have to use balun coils or transformers, but I would recommend it from the point of view of an old troglodytic ham, now having been at this art for 50 years. Yay, I lived that long. I don't know what kind of stories I can tell about the past few days, though. Pretty dull. Here at W1GV, other than that, I have nothing more to say besides 73, which means best regards, in ham radio jargon, and so long, which, in my native fist, translates to da-da-da-da-da-da.